Alrighty, what's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up? What's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Monday, November the 24th. Week in the markets with the holiday on Thursday. Friday is basically a write-off here as well. But what's up, everyone? Top of the morning. Good morning. Good morning. Some things to kind of talk about coming into this week. We do have some red folder news events now with the end of government shutdown 2 weeks ago. What's up, everyone? We'll head into the charts here in a second. Good morning, B Roots, Victor, Cody, Willie, Robert, KO. What's up, Juan, Jeff, Wayne, Hartik, Martin, Dragon, Monica, Lamit, 50, Cinna, I am. What's up, everyone? Yeah. What is up? What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let me grab some water here and we will get started. Okay. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's go on to the key economic events. So, coming into this week here for the overall markets, we do have core PPI. This could be on Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, but with a short week today, with Thursday being a holiday, we have core PPI at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have core retail sales. That's also going to be at 8:30 here as well. So this is for Tuesday. That's the red folder news event. Wednesday, we have unemployment instead of Thursday. And then potentially we have the prelim GDP. And then, of course, on Thursday, we do have a market holiday. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Friday, the market opens back up. So it's a little bit of an interesting week. So as you can see, for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the market's open. And then Thursday, we do have a market holiday. And then Friday, I think it's a full day, but it's going to be lower volume just because we have kind of this long weekend. So this is what we have for the key economic events coming into this week. Let's scroll down here for the earnings calendar. So earnings calendar, basically earnings season is over here now. For the overall markets, we had major earnings last week, which was Nvidia. But with Nvidia, that really affected the overall markets. We had a nice pop, and then overall markets dropping towards the downside. You can see we're still being affected. So we'll kind of talk about Nvidia here and what to expect kind of moving forward, especially the levels that we do have. I also did post on the weekly trading outlook. If you guys didn't have this, I'm not sure if this link works, but I'm gonna have to figure this out. As you can see here, I sent in a works properly. I'm not sure if you can change kind of the time frame on it. I'll have to figure that out, but you guys can see my levels here. I might have to change a few things up, but this is what I have on my weekly outlook. But now let's head on to the charts. Okay, yeah, what's up, everyone? Sound keeps breaking. Yeah, if the sound keeps breaking, it's most likely on your end. You can refresh the stream. For Moomoo, Friday market closed at 2. Moomoo actually just opened their office. I was in Toronto over the weekend. They opened their office in, I think it was Yorkville. That was actually pretty nice. Okay, let's see. Let me go on to the overall indices, and then let's go on to, let's see. I could edit your charts. I could see your charts, but it was in viewing mode, so I couldn't edit it. I think you have to copy and paste it onto your own trading view, and then you'll be able to edit the levels and copy them. But I'll have to figure that out. It's still fairly new. Okay. Key levels coming into today. Sounds keep breaking. Yeah, it's most likely on your end. So just refresh the stream. You can see here for the overall markets, really last week. So as you can see here on the higher time frames, the key levels that we have marked out coming into last week was really this previous kind of right shoulder that we had here on the, this was the left shoulder, which was your 6,800. And now you can see we have your right shoulder, which you ultimately rejected off the key level. And you can see price is breaking for me a bit too. Let's see, still ducking. Sounds breaking for me as well. Already refreshed. Yeah, it should be fine. Let me see the bit rate. The bit rate's good. The sound should be good on my end. Can I get a voice check? Can you guys type in the chat? Can you type one in the chat if you guys can hear me properly? One. Sound is good. One better now. Okay, yeah, it should be good. Most of the time it is fine. It cuts in here in and out, no issue. Sound breaks once in a while, but recovers fine. Yeah, it should be fine. If not, you can always try and refresh the stream. That's usually fixes it. But if there's more issues, I'll try and see what happens. But it should be fine for now. Okay, so for the overall markets, as you can see here, specifically on the ES along with the NQ, along with the ES and NQ, sorry, SPY and Qs as well, what we have here was your right shoulder. Ultimately, kind of rejected off this key pivot level. This was from NVIDIA earnings last week here as well. And then we have support. Now you can see the buyers are really stepping in off this key double bottom. You can see big drop. This was from tariff news all the way back from October the 10th. And then we had a similar day where we ended up dropping once again for a push towards the downside. Let's go on to the hourly chart. So coming into really this week, the key levels that we have coming into today is your last week's highs. Other key levels that we have marked out as well is going to be your last week's lows. And then we really have this 6660 here on the higher time frame. So this is what we have for the overall markets today. Yes, okay. I unplugged my mic. It should be fine here. This is most likely the only thing I could do. Intermittent sound. Yeah, I just unplugged my sound. Unplugged and plugged my mic back in. Hopefully it's fine now. If not, we'll have to figure it out most likely tomorrow, but should be good. But yeah, for the overall market coming into today here, key levels that we have last week's highs, we have your last week's lows, and then key levels that we have is your 6660. So this is what we have coming to market open. You can see a couple of rejections on Friday, multiple rejections here in the pre-market as well. If you do want to see any sort of upside, right, key level that we're going to have is the reclaim back above for a continuation higher. You can see we already have multiple touches off this general area, right? Friday's key level here as well. If we can break back above, potential flip. Of course, the best long is going to be above now. It's going to be your 6,800. That is fairly far away, so we're not going to be looking for the long above that. At least coming to market open, keep an eye out on this 6660 essentially. If we reject off this level, potentially lower highs are still being built. So this is what we have for the ES specifically coming into today. Keep an eye out on this 6,600. As you can see, after this huge drop that we had on Thursday, Friday, nice mean reversion back towards the upside into essentially 50% retracement. Now, what we'll keep an eye out on, as I mentioned, just your 6,600. If we go on to the SPY chart, similar thing here, right? SPY daily chart looks all the same, right? Bouncing off of your key level of support. Key level that we have marked out 662. Let's go into the hourly chart. As you can see here, what we have is your last week's highs. We have your last week's lows. We have your Monday's lows of last week. We have multiple touches, as you can see once again, right, in the pre-market here as well. What we like to see, right, reclaim back above, hold above for a potential continuation higher. Ultimately, if we break underneath, reject your 662, potentially you can see a push lower. These are really the only two levels I'm keeping an eye on coming into market open, specifically on the ES and SPY. If you go into the NQ chart, these are the levels that we have on the higher time frame, so fairly similar thesis. We basically have this double bottom back from October the 10th. We have this higher time frame key pivot point here as well. And then the NQ ended up bouncing off a key level support coming into Friday. So Friday was a very key spot for the overall markets. Now you can see we're getting bought up here. So we're getting bought up on Friday and we're having a little bit of reaction coming to market open. Moving forward, the exact same thing applies on both the ESA and the NQ. These are the major levels that I do have, which is your 24,600. So our 24,600 is going to be key if we want to see any sort of upside. Reclaim back above now. It's going to be your Friday's highs. Hold above your Friday's highs for a pushback towards the upside. Right? You can see technically, if we do not break above this high, right, we're still technically bearish here on the hourly chart, on the 4-hour chart. Right, if we break above this key level, we can see a little bit of a mean reversion back towards the upside. Of course, if we break back above, now it's going to be this 25,300. That would confirm the move higher. Right, after this move down that we had on Thursday, now, right, every single high could potentially be a lower high until we break back above this 25,300. But as I mentioned, if we talk about intraday price action, at least coming to market open, if we break above, potentially you could see a mean reversion to a couple of these imbalances that we have created. If you want to see some downside, really you just want to see the rejection of your Friday's highs and then a continued push down and towards now it's going to be your pre-market lows, which also coincides with this gap fill for a potential move lower. All right, so that's what we have for the NQ. For the QQQ, similar thesis here. We're on the 15-minute time frame. What we have marked out here is your last week's highs, 614. We have your Friday's highs, 598. And we also have your last week's lows, 582. If you want to see upside today, break above your previous day highs, hold for a continued push towards the upside. If we ultimately reject off your previous day highs, you can see a push down in towards your pre-market lows, your previous day close, and potentially below, which will be your 588 and below. So Friday's highs is going to be very key today, which is essentially just your previous day highs. So we'll keep an eye out on your previous day highs here for the Qs, along with the NQ, of course, the ES and SPY here as well. All right, so those are the major indices that we have coming into today. Okay. As for the overall markets, we can go into the SMH real quick. This is the semiconductors. You can see a couple of these semis are pulling back, specifically AMD. We'll kind of talk about this chart here in a second, but really the main indice, of course, is the SPY and Qs. Now I'm going to go over to some tech names and what I'm looking for coming into this week. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat now. And I'll go over some of these Meg 7 names, and of course, I'll go into some other tickers here in a bit. All right. Yeah, if you guys do have any tickers or any charts, you guys can drop them in the chat now. Of course, if you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that one's in the description below. Oh, someone mentioned the Black, I forgot about that as well. So yeah, we are running a Black Friday sale for the week. We've only done one public sale this year, which was our anniversary sale. So if you guys are interested in joining our live trading, we live trade every single day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are interested in that, we do have some sales for lifetime and annual, and that is in the description below. Okay, let's go on to Tesla. So coming into this week specifically here for Tesla, the key levels that we have marked out is really this previous area that we broke down from. So you can see previous level of support essentially turning into resistance, and then we end up having this push towards the downside. So let's go into the hourly chart. Key levels that we have marked out is our last week's highs, which you can see rejection on Thursday, push towards the downside, and then you can see on Friday the key level of support that we have is essentially your last week's lows, 384. So this is the key level here on the higher time frames, and then we also have essentially equilibrium, which is now your 400 key psych. So moving forward here for Tesla coming into today, it's going to be really this 400 key psych. If you want to see some upside, really, maintain above your 396, 400 for a pushback, really in between the middle of the range here now, where we're kind of just trading in between your 424 along with your 384. So upside back in between the middle of the range here. It's going to be above that 396. If we break underneath your 396, potentially we can see a bigger move lower, which is going to be down in towards our last week's lows along with this 384. So this is the level I have here on Tesla. Key levels, you can see touch here, multiple touches. Your previous day highs is right here, but we have multiple touches on Friday. So this could be the key level here. You can also mark out your previous day highs here as well, but I like this level just a little bit better just because we have multiple touches. So that's what we have for Tesla coming into market open. Let's go on to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is the main name to keep an eye out on. So this is the one that had earnings last week. We had it on Thursday, impacted the market greatly. We end up having a nice push higher. Ultimately, day one reversal right off our key levels. Potential kind of head and shoulders here as well. End up rejecting right in a very key spot. So this is what we have for NVIDIA coming into today. And now you can see nice push all the way back towards the downside, which was your 177.50. Let's go on to the hourly chart. So as you can see, nice rejection, earnings high. And we ended up having a really solid push all the way back towards the downside. Now we have some buyers stepping in off this 174. Other levels that we have marked out here as well. Essentially your Friday's highs. And then we also have your Wednesday's lows. So let's go into the 15-minute time frame coming into today here on NVIDIA. We're just going to drag this over here, 184. If you want to see any sort of push towards the upside, really break above your previous day highs, hold for this continuation higher, right above your 184. Only a possible long scenario coming into market open. If we ultimately show pop up and drop, we're going to see a push all the way back towards the downside, down in towards your 174. So this is what we have for NVIDIA coming into today. Keep an eye out on your previous day highs, 184. That is going to be key moving forward, right? Because it's your earnings low, your earnings day low, multiple touches. If you want to see any sort of earnings reversal above your 184, if we reject, we are just going to see this nice continuation back down in towards that 174. So this is what we have for NVIDIA coming into market open. You can see a little bit of the semiconductors showing some weakness here, right? SMH not up as much, plus AMD's key. You can see AMD huge drop on Thursday. AMD's been weak the past couple of weeks. We'll kind of talk about AMD. Got dragged along to got dragged towards the downside along with NVIDIA. So a couple of these semiconductors showing a little bit of more weakness. We'll kind of talk about that here in a second. Let me grab some water and we'll head on to AMD. All right, let's go on to the AMD chart. Alrighty, so AMD, if you look at this here on the daily time frame, as you can see, really what I wanted to see hold was this previous all-time highs pivot, which was your 230 here on the higher time frames. You can see previous resistance turn into support, multiple touches, and then ultimately, once it did not hold this key level, we end up having this push towards the downside. So nice kind of break, retest, hold, nice kind of bounces off this key level. Ultimately, AMD stayed heavy, and once it broke back underneath this 227, we end up having a really solid push towards the downside, really right back in towards this full gap. So for AMD moving forward, AMD is in a very key spot here. The only level of support, which is a very minor level of support, to be honest, is this kind of gap that we have, where your gap low, your 200 key cycle, you can see on Friday, wicked underneath it. But so far, the buyers are trying to defend this gap level. Moving forward here for AMD, if we can see a potential bounce, it has to bounce right here, right off this 203 if you want to see any sort of reversal. Ultimately, if the daily chart stays heavy, your next level support is all the way down towards your 180s. So you have to be careful here for AMD coming into today. Let's go into the hourly chart. Let's go into the 15-minute time frame. So coming into today, the key levels that we're going to have is this 204, this higher time frame daily gap. Other levels that we're going to have marked out here now as well can just be your previous day highs, 210. So coming into today here for AMD, if you want to see any sort of upside, really it's going to be above your 210 previous day highs for continuation higher. Another possible scenario is really the hold above your 204 for this continuation higher here as well. So we have two scenarios on AMD coming into market open for some upside. If you still want to see downside now, consolidation on AMD underneath your 204. So if you get underneath that daily gap, we do have room down in towards now. It's going to be your previous day lows and below. So if you're interested in downside, potentially you're going to be looking for that daily gap on the higher time frames. Keep an eye out on AMD underneath your 204. For AMD longs, it's going to be above your previous day highs, 210 for continuation back, potentially up and towards your 215 and above. So this is going to be the key level that we have marked out on AMD coming to market open. Let's take a look at Google here. This one is at all-time highs. Okay. So for Google, we're at Google, bullish news catalyst, bullish higher time frames. Really, this is the one that's been holding up the overall markets. Everything else is not at all-time highs. You can see Qs pull back, right? Tesla, Nvidia, AMD. Apple's actually holding up here as well. But really, Google and Apple have been the only tickers that are essentially holding up the overall market. Everything else is having a major pullback. Netflix, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, a bunch of these names pulling back towards the downside. The only tickers that are at all-time highs is Google along with Apple. So you can see coming into last week, we had some bullish news over the weekend. Nice push towards the upside. We kind of just stayed strong all week, right? Kind of held levels, higher time frames bullish. And now you can see we're above your 306. So coming into today here on Google, if you're looking at this on the daily chart, higher lows are still very much intact. We're now having this nice continuation higher here as well. Key levels coming to market open is really just going to be your 306. I have no other levels here. 306, it's going to be your last week's highs. This is going to be the key level moving forward. Let's go into the 15-minute time frame. You can see coming into today, right off the bat, nice break, hold above your 306, continuation higher now in the pre-market. Coming into today, I don't really have any levels marked out here on Google. We're above our 300 key psych here as well. If you want to see any sort of potential dip buys, really it's all the way back up in towards your pullback longs back in towards your 306. We can mark out other kind of pre-market levels here as well, but I don't really have anything. So Google, key level 306, potential pullback longs. Shorts, a little bit more discretionary. I don't really have any key levels here as well. Shorts would be in play kind of underneath your 306 for a push lower. So we're really going to have to base it off of your 306. And then we can also mark out our first opening range candle. So this is good. This is a good time. This is a good time to use that 5-minute opening range since this is going to be fairly important today. So we can mark out that 306. And as soon as that first 5-minute candle forms coming to market open, let's mark that out on Google. If we want to see upside, right, as I mentioned, either that pullback long back in towards that 306, or now you'd be looking for, right, the 5-minute opening range break towards the upside. Or if you want to see a reversal, right, break underneath this 306 or potential 5-minute range break lower down in towards, now it's just going to be that 306, your last week's highs. So this is what we have for Google coming into today. Of course, as I mentioned, this is the strongest ticker in the overall markets. So if you do want a long, right, Apple, Google have been good for the past couple of weeks compared to the rest of the tech names. As for Apple here on the daily time frame, you can see still holding up. If you zoom out here on the daily chart, nice higher lows are being built, continuation towards the upside. Key level that we have, we're just going to mark out this general range that we have, your 276. You can see just this consolidation here at your all-time highs. Now, if you want to see that push higher, right, flag break and that continuation, right? You can see a lot of these ones have been consolidation, right, break above. But what's happening here on Apple, a lot of times when it consolidates, kind of has this break and then fakes out and then has that real move. So I wouldn't be surprised here for Apple if we either have that breakdown and then, of course, we have that nice V-shaped recovery. But key levels for Apple coming into coming into this week, same levels as before. Last week's highs 270. Sorry, this is not your last week's highs. This is your all-time highs. But what we have 277. Your low of the range, which is going to be this 266, and then we have essentially the middle of the range, 273. If you want to see upside, right, either now it's going to be the above your 273 for continuation, potential bounce play off your 266 is in play, or now, of course, if you're waiting for that range break above your 277 for continuation higher. Only way I'm short here on Apple, I'm not really very short bias, just based off the higher time frames. It would have to now be maybe underneath your 273 or preferably underneath this 266, which I'm not as a fan of on Apple. I would just be a little bit more cautious towards the downside on this one. So that's what we have for Apple. Let's go on to a few other names here as well. At least for Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and Netflix, these are the weakest tickers in the market. If we're looking at these compared to the overall indice themselves, you can see the Qs, a little bit of pullback here, but specifically on Amazon, pullback from all-time highs, Microsoft, pullback from all-time highs, Meta, pullback here as well, along with Netflix. So these are the main tickers that are showing a little bit of relative weakness. Really not too much to talk about on these ones. It just kind of came back down in towards key levels of support. If you're interested in Amazon, right, these are just low risk buys for a potential kind of move back towards the upside. Microsoft, similar thing. This one's now pulling back all the way down in towards almost your previous resistance back from 2024. So keep an eye out on Microsoft. That's where you want to see the buyer step in. As for Meta, right, higher time frames, kind of steep pullback here as well. Now the key levels that we have marked out, I actually don't have too many key levels. I kind of drew at this 580. We have a couple daily gaps here as well. So you just like to see, at least for Meta, if you want to see any sort of reversal, key level that we have is going to be this 605. So 605 reclaim for a potential move higher. So far you can see buyers are trying to step in here off this 582. Now you want to see the break back above your 605. As for Microsoft, key level that we have marked out is your 492. As for Netflix, key level is going to be this 109, which is the area that we broke down from. So until we can reclaim back above, I'll be a little bit more cautious on longs. As for shorts, you could be looking for the potential pop and fade off your 109 for this continuation lower. So just kind of go over my game plan coming into today here, but that's for the MAG 7 and most of these tickers. So really today here, as I mentioned, key level for me is going to be this 598. So this is really key here for the QQQ and NQ specifically. This is the main chart I'm going to be focusing on. If we can break above your 598, we can see a push higher. If we reject off your 598, we're just going to see a push towards the downside. Coming into today, I am actually neutral, right? I'm 50%, I'm dead smack 50% on both, right? Upside and the downside. You can see we're right in between kind of the range that we dropped here on Thursday. So Thursday, big push towards the downside. And then Friday, we had some nice buyers stepping in. This is essentially the exact midpoint, which is a 50% retracement. Right, if anything, I have a 50% on both sides, maybe leaning a little bit more towards the downside. So maybe a 60-40 bearish stance, but overall, I don't have a hard bias. I'm open to playing both sides here. As I mentioned, 50% retracement, markets pulling up here in the pre-market. So this is what I have for the SPY and Qs coming into today. If you look at the SPY is above a key level. We can just kind of mark out this 662, kind of this previous day highs here as well. But at least for my main watches coming into today, key levels I'm going to keep an eye out on is going to be NVIDIA number one. So NVIDIA, the key level that we have is going to be this low that we created from Friday, and also your Wednesday's lows here as well. If we reject off this, right, it's showing a little bit of relative weakness here. Potentially, we can keep an eye out on NVIDIA for some more downside. Other key levels that we can have marked out as well is going to be this 180. So we can mark out this. Also next week, by the way, I am going to have this Sunday. So the Sunday on the 30th. So this Sunday, I'm gonna be doing, or yeah, this Sunday I'm gonna be doing a live weekly outlook. So I'm gonna show you guys exactly how I draw my key levels, what I'm looking for coming into the week, since some of you guys are asking. So that's gonna be on the 30th, this Sunday. The date, sorry, the time is still to be determined, but the date is gonna be November the 30th on a Sunday. So this Sunday I'm gonna have that. As for NVIDIA, hold up one sec. All right, so as for NVIDIA, the key level is going to be this 180 as I mentioned. So there's two shorts, potential pop and fade off your 183, or this consolidation underneath. Now it's going to be this 180 for a potential push lower. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA. Only way I'm flipping long is above your 184. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA coming into today. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the downside, but I'm open and playing both sides here on NVIDIA. That's going to be one of my main watches. EMD, similar thing. So far, really solid push down on Thursday. Friday, nice opening drive play towards the downside. I ended up taking NVIDIA and AMD. It was actually a really tricky day. I overtraded for sure on Friday, but nice trades towards the downside, kind of right off our key levels 210. Now for AMD, what I'm keeping an eye on is this daily gap. So this daily gap that we have here on the higher time frames, right? Reclaim either above your previous day highs, a potential, right? Kind of an immediate retest for a push higher. If you want to see some downside, right? As I mentioned, underneath your 204. So we'll keep an eye out on AMD coming into today here as well. So NVIDIA and AMD. As for a few other names, Google, that's going to be my main name for potential pullback long, back down in towards this 306. So that's what we have. Sorry, yeah, 306. Apple, we'll also keep an eye out on this one until it shows a lot of relative strength or it can break outside this range. Be a little bit more cautious on this. And then for a couple names, potential Amazon, right? Reclaim of this earnings low is key. Potentially above your 222, you can see a reversal. If we get back underneath, right, rejection towards the downside. But at least for me, coming to market open, main names, Google for a pullback long above your 306. And then we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA and AMD. I'm open to playing both sides. And then for Tesla, I'm fairly neutral on this ticker. So we'll keep an eye out on Tesla. As I mentioned, key level for me now is just going to be your really this 396. If we can break underneath, continuation lower, hold, right? Potential move back towards the upside. So this is what we have for the major indices, along with some of the names I'm keeping an eye on coming into today. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can drop them in the chat now. Let me scroll up here as well. The VIX is coming down a little bit. Should we expect the volatility to die down? Yeah, just because of this week here as well. So with the overall markets, you can see VIX kind of still above 20, but last week, the major thing that we had was NVIDIA earnings, which you can see the volatility that really came into the markets. Nice pop, ultimately faded towards the downside. Friday instantly got bought back up. And now we have a 50% retracement. As for this week, as I mentioned, we do have a short week in the market. So short week, Thursday, we have a market holiday. So all day off on Thursday. And then Friday, I think some of you guys were saying it's a half day. So half day, market closes early. So that's basically a write-off for Thursday, Friday. Really no trades on those days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have a couple of red folder news events. But usually whenever we do have a market holiday, as something like a half day as well or a holiday midweek, that's usually a good sign that the volumes could be lower just because, right, it's a market holiday. So that's what we're expecting, at least coming to this week. We'll see what shapes up in the first few days of market open, but at least for this week, right, key levels we already have set in stone. Let me go on to Palantir, see some more questions here as well. Will the live weekly outlook? Yes, that will be on YouTube. That will be on Sunday. I'll have more information for you guys. So if you guys want to keep updated, I'll most likely post it on Twitter, or I'll post it on Instagram, or I'll just let you guys know here. Palantir. Black Friday, it's in the description. Is it this? It shows the same price for annual and lifetime. No, it should be different. If you click on the first link below, maybe I had the wrong link sent, but it should be fine on the links below. Let's see. Are trading orbs every morning? Yeah, primarily. So I trade orbs as one of my strategies within my playbook. It's all within the break and retest in itself. It's just a setup that I do have. So for Palantir, coming to this week, key levels that we have marked out is your 172. You can see multiple touches here. Ultimately broke underneath that 172, retested it, and nice continuation lower. Really all the way down, as you can see, in towards this key low, which is back from September. And you can see a little bit of buyers stepping in here. So for Palantir, key levels that we have marked out. I actually don't have any levels marked out here, or I didn't mark out new levels, but your 148 was hit nicely. So for Palantir, at least moving forward here now, is going to be this 155. If you want to see any sort of continuation lower, break back underneath this 155 for a continuation lower. If you want to see some upside, preferably to hold that 155, or now it's going to be above your previous day highs for continuation here. So that's what we have for Palantir. As for a couple other tickers, let's see. MU, nice bounce so far. TSM, a couple of these semiconductors. Hood's pulling back. So a couple of these high beta names like Hood pulling back here on the higher time frames substantially, right? It's down about 30%. So whenever the market usually has a correction, 5-10%, these high beta names are going to be down a decent amount just because they're leveraged to both sides. As for SoFi, another one, right, pulling back here. In my opinion, this is coming back into a very key spot. So higher time frames, as long as you can maintain really above your 24. So 24, kind of this original base, we can see a nice continuation higher. So that's what we have for SoFi. What I personally like to see on this ticker is now the reclaim back above for this push higher. So that's what I like to see on the daily time frame. This is a pretty big level, but really daily chart, I like to see buyers stepping in for this push higher. A couple other names, Intel pulling back, key levels right back in towards your news candle high. This was originally from Thursday earlier of this year. Higher lows are being built. So Intel, in my opinion, looks fairly good for a potential kind of reversal back towards the upside. Now you like to see a reclaim back above your 36. As for a couple other names, UNH pulling back here, rejected off a key level. You like to see now these kind of higher lows be built. Bitcoin. So let's go over Bitcoin and gold. But as for Bitcoin, you can see really deep retracement here, kind of rejection off a key level, push towards the downside. Now for Bitcoin, really the higher time frames that we do have is this key low. So we have a couple key levels here on Bitcoin. We have this level, and then we also have all the way back down in towards your 74. And you can see a little bit of buyers stepping in. So for Bitcoin, if we're looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, at least moving forward, the key levels that I'm going to have, or even the daily chart, is going to be this up close candle. So every single up close candle now, we like to really be used as resistance for continuation towards the downside. So we have this order block retest towards the downside, or now it's going to be really underneath, as I mentioned, 84,000 for a push lower. If we're looking at gold, right, key level is just consolidating here right above, right on the daily chart. This one, in my opinion, looks fairly good, right? Higher lows are being built, kind of forming this flag pattern here. What you now like to see is really now the hold above your 40-40 and right potentially push towards upside. Ultimately, if we break underneath, we're going to see a push down and towards this key level support, which is your 38.80. Okay. So coming into today, as I mentioned, just quickly go over my game plan once more, and then I'm going to call it a day here. So Friday, key level, just mark out your previous day highs on both the SPY and the Qs. That's going to be key coming into today. As for some of my main watches, I'm keeping an eye out on NVIDIA and AMD just because it's showing a little bit of relative weakness compared to the SPY and Q. So those are the names I'm keeping an eye out on. As for Google, bright pullback, long stack back down in towards that 306. Really the only ticker that's super clear that's bullish is Google. The rest of the names, be open and playing both sides. As I mentioned, I have like a 50-50 bias today, right? Fairly neutral. I'm not long bias or short bias. So we'll just wait for some more price action to develop, at least coming into this week. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a short week here with Thursday being a market holiday, and then Friday, it is a half day. So right? If there's nothing that shapes up within the first few days of the week, right, take it easy this week, just because we do have a market holiday on Thursday and then Friday. Right, Friday, in my opinion, is a no trade day, just because it's a half day before a long weekend, or half day with Thanksgiving here as well. Let's see. Yeah, if you guys did enjoy that, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. How many hours is your live trade? Usually around 9:30 to 11 a.m. Bull trap with Google, way to buy puts. Buying puts is hard just because you're not basing it off any levels. You're just kind of basing it's more discretionary, right? Because there's no levels to go off of. We're bullish on the higher time frames. Whenever this occurs, I usually just like, right, trading with the trend, right? You can always trade against the trend, but it's a lot harder to trade with the trend. And something like Google, you don't know how much higher this is going to go, right? And trying to time the top is going to be fairly difficult. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys want to take advantage of the Black Friday sale, that should be ending this week. Most likely should be gone by next week. But if you guys are interested in that, you guys can join, or you guys can check that out in the description. I think it's $1,000 off on lifetime, and then annual is like $500. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.